We're going to start in just a minute.
Great.
People grabbing lunch. We've got sandwiches and onigiri. Everyone is down.
That's nice. I'll have breakfast. I'll have a cup of tea.
Okay.
And I see Kathleen Liu has also just joined from Berkeley, California.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Perfectly. Welcome on board. We're going to start in just a minute. People are just grabbing their coffee and sandwiches, the most important part of the meeting.
I guess I'll do the same.
I'm just sharing my screen now, and the slides for the meeting are up there. Everything is being recorded with audio and video, so we can get back to it later.
Okay.
I'm going to ask my long sufferer to do the minutes. All right, we've got a bunch more people joining us right now. Everyone who just joined will be starting in just a minute.
Okay.
Do we have enough onigiri and sandwiches? I hope so. Oh, yeah, we have a sweet.
Yeah.
This is from you. Oh, that's nice. So for those of you who are not joining us in the room in Japan, we're having Japanese rice balls. I've got a apple and soy bar here called Soy Joy, and interestingly, I've got a sweet called New York City. Let's see what that is. Oh, it's like a crepe, but a crepe that can be preserved. We're taking photos, so you'll be able to see what you missed. I really did take a photo of the food. Okay, so hi there, welcome.
I already had dinner, but you're making me hungry, Shane.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem. Anytime. We are getting quite busy here. The room is filling up. Can you hear us clearly? No problem.
Yes.
Perfectly.
All right. And confirmation at the table too. Okay. So let me. And the screen share working okay on your end?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So to get this meeting started, the Automotive Work Group, brand new in OpenChain. It had its mailing list started last week. We've already started to swap our hobbies on the mailing list. So we're really getting down to business here. This is the first meeting. It's in Japan. We will be trying to have meetings all over the world, perhaps at Open Source Summit, North America, Open Source Summit Europe. And our goal is to make sure all of the automotive companies get the maximum benefit from our work around open source compliance. Endo-san is the chair of our Automotive Work Group. He's taken the job of bringing us all together and doing all of the work while I take all of the credit.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem, my pleasure. And I'll hand over to Endo-san now to start the meeting.
Yes, so at first, we conduct a self-introduction, briefly, well, about 30 seconds by person. So from me, I'm Endo from Toyota Motor Corporation. I'm engaged in IP strategy and open source compliance in Toyota. And from 2 years later, I also focused on the OpenChain activities. And I set up Japan work group, OpenChain Japan work group with Sony-san and Hitachi. They are inside the company. So, and not only us, but also each automakers and suppliers also using the many open source software. So I think this is good timing for set up this work group. Nice to meet you.
I'm Akio Nakadachi of Mazda. So I'm architect of software, IBS software, and Mazda has not decided to join this group or not. Now we are thinking about that. So we want to know about this working group. So that's why I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kohei Yamamoto from Mitsubishi Electric. I'm a co-worker of Motai-san. Someone knows him, I hope. And I'm a very, very beginner in open community, and the first time joining like this type of meeting. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm glad to join here. I am a software engineer related automotive products such as navigation system or something. But I'm not an actual product engineer, but support debugging tools or investigation performance. Hey.
My name is Haraki from Suzuki Motor Corporation. Recently, I'm working for the automotive grade Linux, and I'm dedicated for the cluster development for the Azure. So, and I'm also beginner of the open source community. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Naomi Chishima from NEC Solution Innovators. I am in charge of my company, our license compliance management. Our company participated because I participated because our company are in charge of delivering software to automotive industry. Thank you.
I'm Yuki Uchiyama from TRIAD. TRIAD is the Toyota Research Institute Advanced Development, quite a long name.
Yeah.
The company which develops automated driving software. So, and I'm a senior manager of legal and IT. I'm quite a newbie of this kind of world as well, but I'm so interested in it. So thank you so much. Oh, and I'm Low Oyster Institute.
Oh,
I consume 503,051 for 2 years.
wow.
Nice meeting.
It's amazing to meet you too.
Hi, I'm Tetsuya Saba. I'm working for Fujitsu. I develop in-house embedded Linux distribution, and I contribute Yocto project. And recently, my interest is relationship with Yocto and SPDX.
Hi, I'm Tetsuya Mukawa from Honda. So I'm mainly working on developing IBI platform. So will be shipped in next 2 or 3 years. So also I am responsible for open source compliance for that product. So that's why I'm here. Also I am member of AJ committee.
Thank you. I'm Solet from Microchip Technology Japan, and semiconductor company was developed in the US. And I'm taking charge of field application engineer for dedicated automotive software and also the some network products. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Yoshi Ito from Renaissance Electronics, software engineer of the Japanese system SoC. So some of the Linux kernel and part of the open source software would be developed in my company. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Yusuke Ashizuka from Fujitsu Computer Technology. I'm developing Linux platform with Denso 10 Kusakabe-san. Thanks.
My name is Hiremu Shishido from Fujitsu Computer Technology. I'm development ちょっと日本語。
日本語でも大丈夫です。
ヨット環境になってます。よろしくお願いします。
He engaged in the Yopt project. Shane, please.
So I'm Shane Coughlin. I'm the general manager of the OpenChain project. My job is to coordinate all of our different work groups and to do things like bring OpenChain into the ISO standardization process.
I'm Shinsuke Kato from Panasonic, and Panasonic develops automotive IoT systems, but I belong to the headquarter division, not the automotive division. But in Panasonic, I work for the OSS compliance and also in OpenChain community. Thank you.
I'm Kenji Jie from Denso 10 Limited. As I calculated my email yesterday, I'm working as an in-house patent attorney at Intellectual Property Department. I'm mainly in charge of patent lawsuits, in particular those in the US. But last year, I began to learn all compliance and voluntarily engage in OSS compliance activities in my company to cooperate with Kusakabe-san, my coworker. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Yuichi Kusakabe from Denso 10. I'm Linux platform project leader in Denso 10 and AGL advisory board member, system architect member, and developer now. And this week, I have a meeting AGL release manager Yan Shimon, and AGL supports using SPDX Lite to release their end of this year. So we will many contribute OpenChain automotive this activity and another open source activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
The telephone.
Yes.
I see a telephone number ending 9942. I'm guessing this is Marcel from Bosch.
Hello, yes, that's correct. Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Marcel Kutzmann from Bosch Software Innovations. I'm the open source officer there, and we're also doing internal services for Bosch. And I'm the representative in OpenChain for Bosch.
Here we have Kathleen on the line as well.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Kathleen Liu. I am an attorney at Mapbox. Open source is part of what I do for my job, but I am also an interest of mine. And this working group is of interest to me because I think my company may be interested in working with automobile companies as a supplier of software.
Thank you, Kathleen. I see we also have Lars on the line.
Yes, hello, good morning. My name is Lars Geyer Blaumeiser. I'm together here with Marcel. I'm also from Bosch, leading there the automation effort concerning open source compliance.
Welcome. And finally, Nicole on the line.
Hi there. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever. My name is Nicole. I'm working for TÜV Süd, which is a third-party certification, testing, and training company. I'm responsible for everything regarding new software topics. So I also came to the open chain, I think about a year ago, and we started the first third-party certification program together. And I'm here now for the automotive work group, as my background from the last roughly 20 years is working for automotive industry, and been doing especially functional safety assessments for the last 8 years here at TÜV Süd.
Welcome. That's everyone on the line. So I'm going to hand over to Endo-san for the agenda.
Yes. So today I'd like to focus on the discussion because today is the first day of the automotive work group. So we very freely we can do everything, but we can no obligation right now what to do. So we'd like to know that each people needs. It is no problem low level. It is no problem high level. So but I think someone not know about the open chain well, and someone not know about some activity in automotive. So as a first, I'd like to share the basic information about the open source automotive and open source.
Hey, hi, Katerina.
Yes, please. And you can pick up coffee or something. Yeah. Everyone, there is a sandwich in here somewhere. So please enjoy it. Yeah. Okay.
Next slide.
Yes. Yeah. First, very briefly introduction of the open source compliance automotive industry. As you know, open source software is spreading all over the world, very speedy. Of course, like Linux and Android, open source platform, and some automakers use Android Auto for each other systems. And iPhone and PlayStation is not open source project, but they use many open source software and products. And our automotive industry also it spread the open source project such as AGL. AGL is a automotive grade Linux. This is a Linux Foundation project to develop the now focused on IVI, but not only IVI but also each function of the automotive vehicle to, for using the Linux. And already many companies, not only Japanese companies, but also European companies such as Volkswagen and Daimler are also member of the AGL. And ELISA is a very new project of the Linux Foundation. They now focused on the functional safety of the Linux because I think IVI is not problem, but if introduced another beside embedded system for the automotive vehicle, functional safety becomes more important. So they now discussing about that. And Genevieve is also IVI project of the based on the open source also. And Auto, the adaptive platform, is also based on the project. Auto is not open source project, but this adaptive platform focused on the how to using the open source software, like to, for example, like ADAS system and so on. So almost all this is a trial phase, but some projects already becomes a real product right now. So I think not only this, but also, for example, AutoWare project is one project to develop the autonomous vehicle software by using the open source. So there are many projects all over the world in automotive field also. Next, please. And I think open source software is not only the one technology aspect, but also it is directly connected to the company's strategy, because almost all software becomes open source software. And for example, Google disclosed their core technology such as OS technology or AI technology, Android and TensorFlow. And they the profits from the data, or another they developed another business model beforehand business model. And I think to contribute community is also important for the company, because high-skilled software engineer is evaluated by the not patent. Right now, the commit of the GitHub or another major project of open source software, because patent is takes a long time. And but I think the output of the GitHub or open source project is reflects real time their output. So I think engineer want to show that their contribution for all the work, and to step up their career. So some company promote contribution of their employees. For example, Uber appeared. They contribute over 300 projects. And Japanese company also recently focused on it. For example, Yahoo Japan making some special program to support their engineers' contribution. So I think the open source changed the company's direction, and it is very important for each company's strategy. Next, please. And OSS license issue is well, as you know, each software was put it the open source license, and each license is a intention of each engineer. So we can use open source software freely, free of charge, but we have to respect their intention. So I think OSS license issue is very important. Next, please. Of course. Yeah. And I think this is most big issue for our industry, because automotive industry has very complicated and very huge supply chain. And beforehand, many OEMs are not interested in the source code, because they interested in the specification or quality or some function of each systems. And source code issue is, for example, tier 1 or tier 2 issues. But we have to comply with each obligation of the open source software license. So even if we don't receive the source code, but we have to comply with each obligation. So this situation is very unique and a very difficult point for our industry. So I think how to change the situation, for example, I think traceability and the transparency of the software becomes very important for open source compliance. I think it is not only for open source compliance, but also security issues also. Car OEM if not know about which open source software using in their products, they can't handle the vulnerability of each product software. So I think we have to thinking at the same time, same things. So I think it is not only IP issue, but also security or quality issue of the software. Next, please. Yeah. Next is the introduction of the OpenGen project. OpenGen project is a Linux Foundation's official project to develop standard of open source license compliance. You can find the Linux Foundation's homepage. And next, please. And I already explained about similar things. I think OpenGen is also focused on the supply chain of the open source software. Yeah, next, please. And I think OpenGen's philosophy is to focus on each company's governance, because even if OEM or tier one maker have great governance systems by own, but another supply chain company not have no governance, the information not coming well, and the OEM can't comply the obligation. So I think important thing is that each company in the supply chain have to develop a good open source compliance system. But I think what is good is very difficult for the compliance, because if we open source compliance is very detailed. So how to define the good compliance is very difficult. So the community defined what is a good appropriate compliance process in each company. For example, specification defines each spec code for each company's open source handling process. For example, specifications say, please making the open source policy, and you have to spread the policy inside the company. And another spec say, please handling the bill of materials of each product or each service to clear which open source software using for each product or service. I think this is very basic things for the open source compliance, but very few companies have authorized governance systems, especially our industry maybe. So we have to develop each company's governance structure, and so I think specification is a very good example and a very good standard for open source compliance in our industry also. And OpenGen project also making the curriculum because open source compliance is not a competitive issue, but a cooperative zone. And each company's education issues little different, but almost all things is same. What is a GPL or what is a bill of materials? This is same all of those company. So I think this is open source issue. So we also handling share the curriculums or some educational materials inside the company, across the company. This is very productive for each company. And the conformance is one of the method to show that we have the better open source compliance process. Each company can get the conformance when each company specifies each factor of the specification, and each company puts their homepage or some materials for showing the we can have the a better open source compliance process inside the company. Next, please. And I already explained that, but I think in supply chain, very different headquake has each party. For example, OEM, I already explained, we can't take the source code something, but we have to comply the obligation. And I think tier one company like Panasonic or LG or Bosch or is a headache with each OEM's method and process is different, format is different. So even if using the same Linux or same software, the manner of the handling the open source software is different. So I think this is not productive for tier one companies. And tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 companies is very difficult to make the governance system by themselves because budget is limited and legal people or IP people is the number of such people is very few. So how to develop this governance system by the engineer or some other people is a very big headache. So I think today we discuss about such headache or issues of each company or each industry people, and we share and how to handle each issues by the community. Yeah, please. And this is organization of the open chain. Shane is the general manager, and many teams exist inside the open chain project. And Platinum member is not only automotive but also many IT company and some media company also, and silicon companies also. Yeah. So I think this concept is not only one industry but also each industry's issues. But I think we have to focus on our unique issues also in this work group. Next, please. And I already explained about the conformant. Already many companies get the conformant. And in our industry, Scania, they are European truck company, already get the self-certification. So I think if we have a chance to share their know-how and their, how to get the self-certified from the OpenJet project is a very good reference for us. Yeah. Of course, Scania's people joined these work groups already. Unfortunately, today European is a very early morning, so but we planning to the next meeting in Europe also. Yeah. Thank you. Please. And as a reference, I introduced about the Open Chain Japan Work Group. Japan Work Group founded 2 years ago, and to discuss about the Japanese company's issue and making the output by English. But almost all conversation is Japanese. So I think this is a very initial, very good training project for open source project. So I think this project is also work group is successful right now because over 100 people join and 7 sub-work groups making the output. So we follow automotive work group is the first industrial work group of the open chain. So we have to do the step by step, and we communicate as a work group, not only Japan work group, but also Korea, China, India, and spec people, spec team, and the curriculum team also. Next, please. Finally, I'd like to share the automotive work group proposal I already shared this slide by the internet. I explain very briefly. Next, please. I already explained about the awareness or issues of auto industry. So next, please. And the purpose is, I think, three. I think each company's situation is very different. For example, legal people, IP people engaged in the open source compliance. Some company engineer engaged in it. So I think we have to share the information for our for improve our industry level. Is one of the big our purpose. And next is if it is possible, we can making some standard for the open source supply chain management. For example, open chain project already defines the specifications each company's governance. So I think next step is we have to we have to develop some standard of the information exchange of each party is also our potential challenge, not fixed yet. And at the same time, I think very few people understand the open source compliance inside our industry. Maybe few executives of auto industries people understand the open source compliance. What is open source compliance? What is open source license? And many engineers also. So how to change the culture and how to educate our industry people is also a big issue for us. Next, please. And already there are many people joining this mailing list. For example, 8 car OEMs people registered our mailing list, and many suppliers such as not only suppliers but also TIF is a third-party certification company also join our community. And this is company's people, but not only company's people, but also some many lawyers and many community engineers also join interested in our mailing list. So I think this is very good opportunity to communicate with each other all over the world. Next, please. And this is very briefly milestone of our work group. This year, we are first year, and Japan work group is all people in Japan, so we can communicate very easy, face-to-face meeting every week. But this is a global work group, so we have to take the time to understand each other. So we like to have the face-to-face meeting, not only Japan, but also Europe and the US also. And we'd like to exchange information by the mailing list or another methods. And next, we'd like to making some materials for our best practice, introduce best practice of each company, and to making some materials output. And 3 years later, if it's possible, we'd like to some standard of our industry. Next, please. And I already explained. I think this is global community. So we'd like to proceed this project by basically web-based. Of course, we can using the teleconference and face-to-face meeting also. So, but I think we'd like web-based is important things because time difference and the distance is very long. But I think in Asia, US, Europe, there are many automotive people over the world. So to communicate with and to proceed project is a very good challenge. Okay, thank you so much. So this is my proposal and current situation of our industry. So please feel free to give me the opinion. And if English is difficult, please feel free to say Japanese. I translate. My English is not so good, but I try. So please feel free to say English, Japanese. I think German, no problem. Yes, yeah. So I think someone coming from the introduction, self-introduction after that. So please briefly introduce you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry for being late. I was at the official Linux conference venue and in the hall A2 to find out that it was not a closed meeting. So it took me a while to come here. My name is Katharina Marke. I'm a lawyer by training, admitted to the bar in Germany. I'm originally from Germany. And I have a long history in working with open, or what we say, public licenses, because I started my career at Creative Commons. I'm not sure if you heard about Creative Commons. It's a public license that, for example, the Wikipedia project uses. And it's the same concept as the open source licenses, just for content, not for software. And 3 years ago, I founded the Software Compliance Academy, where we provide training and consulting to help companies to work with open source compliance on all sorts of questions, legal questions, technical questions. So my partner, Michael Jäger, works on tooling issues and has also presented, I think, in the context of OpenChain already. He's one of the core maintainers of Pathology. So we have lots of different competence areas, I think. I wanted to add to what Endo-san said for his presentation. I think it's a very good idea to have a global group for the industry. I can, of course, not speak on behalf of the German car industry, but there are many people, I think, who would be very interested in, being more actively involved. And I also feel that some of the very traditional car makers, and maybe that's similar in Japan. So in Germany, the car industry is a very traditional industry. So it's very difficult to make the cultural change from the car company, car manufacturer, to a software company. So it's not only about the legal issues and understanding compliance. It's the mindset of most of the managers. That my experience is that the engineers understand everything. Maybe the top level management understands everything, but the middle, the traditional manager level, very hard to work. Yeah, that's my experience. For me, it's a cultural.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Katrina. Hi, it's Nicole. And actually, I've been in a call yesterday where it's the main opinion was there are no complicated software supply chains for automotive industry. So yeah, I just had the proof yesterday. they have no notion about what should be going on.
Okay.
Thanks so much. I think so. Top management is a communicate with other industries tops. So they have the very advanced thinking. Our auto industry, Japanese auto industry also. And young people is also have exchanged SNS or another information. But middle management is a little difficult situation because they have to protect their business because automotive business is very big and very, I think, conservative. But because I think high quality products is needed because different from the IT field, a beta version field world. So I think they also important people, but we have to shift it the casual company and IT company. So I think this is one of the trial of the open source issue. I think open source issue is a very appropriate for the casual communication with other companies because open source is completely open, so no trade secrets issues. And if we can exchange some open source compliance process freely, we can making some good case study, not only open source but also other factor also. I think IP and legal is especially conservative compared with the engineer or some marketing people. So I think very good trial for our industry. Thank you so much. Yeah. And Matt-san also.
Yes.
Introduction, please. Yeah.
So I'm Matthew Kuipers. I'm an attorney at Uber Technologies. We partner, so I do a lot of work with our self-driving car team. So we partner with tier one suppliers and OEMs. And so I think one thing I would like to get out of this is to better understand our partners' positions with regards to open source, because we are a software company interfacing with more traditional industries, and help our partners understand our position and our concerns. I think anytime you have something like open source where you can engage with the community, it's an opportunity to build trust with other companies. So I think that's one of the thrusts of OpenChain for like a company point of view. That's also like we'd like to build trust with our partners in the industry.
Thanks so much. I think Uber is a key person, key player in this community because you know the auto industry and IT industry both.
Yes.
Yeah. So very good bridge for each industry. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you for joining this community. Yeah.
Thanks for
and
the invitation.
You also.
Okay. My name is Rolf Blumberg. I'm from business development for Backward Technologies. So we are in cybersecurity, and we are working with the automotive industries, some part of the world, mainly on the V2X based technology. And I'm also like very much interested in like how to, which like cybersecurity and open source and automotive, because at the end of the day, everything is about catching the risk. And I'm very interested in part of discussion.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned, license management and the vulnerability management is very common in the open source handling. So I think we discuss not only license, but also quality or vulnerability issue also. Thanks so much. Yeah. So I think introduction is finished already.
Oh, we've got two more.
Oh, so two more. I see. This is Mike. So okay. Please coming to near Mike. Yeah, because it's European people also join by the teleconference.
I'll see you. Nice to meet you. My name is Hiro Takamoto from Mitsubishi Electric Japan. So I'm attending for sharing the knowledge of what can I say? How to think open source license for some kind of issue. because our company is products related with automotive, such as navigation system or ECU. So I'd like to know the standardized how can I say, the way to keep so my company want to become okay, healthy company for open source software. So please okay. I'll do my best. So.
If it was Japanese, it's no problem because please let us know. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
I'm sorry late for this kind of this meeting because Tim-san talks a very good talk.
Oh, really?
So my test is compliance.
I see.
We both attended. My name is Takashi Ninjoji. I'm from DNA. It's a little bit hard to introduce my company because mainly we are a game company, big game publishing. But on the other hand, we have a professional baseball game team called Yokohama DNA Baseball. And on the other hand, a basketball team also we have. So we are how to say very interesting in the internet and AI services. And in the sense, we provide the service for the automotive how to say mobility service. So in that sense, we really interested in automotive industries. But I'm sorry, we are not directly incoming to the automotive industry, but we feel very, sorry, how to say, we're very concerned about how your industry is going. So I'm very appreciate for give me to attend this opportunity and attend this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think our industry shifted case. Case is Daimler same at first, connectivity and autonomous, electricity, caseの人なんでしたっけ? Share, yes. So we have to shift it the mere production of the automotive vehicle and shifted the service of the mobility. So I think DNA or Uber service is very important because we have to care not only GPL version 3 but also AGPL also. So we have to have the very various viewpoint. I think very good things. Yeah. Thank you so much. And Kinoshita-kun, please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Yusuke Kinoshita from Toyota Research Institute Advanced Development, let's say the PRID. So I'm handling the OSS issue in my company as the member of the IP and the legal team. So as you know, our industry in our company, so just started to use open source software, and so we just started to check what OSS is using in our is used in our source code, and so we are now establishing a contribution process in our company. So I'm expecting that some information we can take to address the issue to establish such a process.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I think contribution is very high level compared with we are using the open source software. But we already have some community, source community like AGL, JNVR, and so on. So we have to also discuss about how to prepare the contribution of our employees. And that you also.
Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. I just had a presentation that I finished. So I'm Dennis from Synopsys. So some of you may know already, but we also have some members participating in Open Chain. We do have a lot of activities happening in automotive. I don't want to talk too much about our tools, but we have tools that are used by automotive customers. And especially for open source software, we do a lot of work on helping customers or helping our organizations understand what they need to do in terms of license compliance and vulnerabilities and so on. So I'm happy to be part of this. Sorry, I missed the first part of it, so I'm not sure what topics you discussed, but I'm happy to be part of it and contribute to the discussion.
Thank you so much. I just introduced about the very basic things, so no problem. So discussion started just now. So everything is good. So someone prepare the opinion for this work group beforehand, no?
Endo-san, maybe it's good to unpack. You mentioned a possible industry standard for open source software supply chain management.
Yeah.
How would that work alongside things like the OpenChain standard? How would that be working with OpenChain's standard for compliance?
I think to promote to get the self-conformant for each supply chain people is one of good things. And the second thing is how to communicate each other, the manner or some document format or some tools is also important things, because, for example, to report tier 2 to tier 1 and to report tier 1 to OEM, I think if the format is different, tier 1 company have to translate the format. So I think this is not productive. And this is my personal headache. Even if we define some format, but some engineer of the tier 1 supplier, why we have to fill this information? I think if we establish a standard of our industry, we don't have to take time such issues, because this is standard and we have some document to explain about why this parameter is important for source compliance. So I think that to making some documents, formats, or process of the data exchange or information exchange is a very important issue. I think SPDX or SPDX Lite is one of the solutions, but we don't focus on at first stage. I think because I don't know, but there is some another critical parameter, not defined by the SPDX. I don't know, but possibilities exist. So we discuss about the what is our best practice for exchange information. OEMs, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers. I think this is a good standard point. And this is very good for the open chain people. We'd like to contribution back to the upstream open source specification or some people, curriculum team or other teams also.
Shen-san, I thought that there are no right now there are no explicit activity displayed on the open chain website about the how to exchange license information between inside of the supply chain. But Endo-san mentioned that there varied requirement exists about the how to exchange license information. But someone mentioned that the security information trace or some software package traceability for the software package which distributed by supplier to manufacturer. So I think it's better to correct the industrial requirement or proposal on this work group and distribute to some work group or some another activity in open chain community. For example, SPDX Lite are written in the Japan working group and the license information exchange working group. But if there are additional comment or additional requirement came from this work group, perhaps it's able to improve the SPDX Lite format or some guideline to supply chain management, I think.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I think Kato-san is from the tier one suppliers viewpoint. Something you comment to I and Ito-san.
Yes, I also think the same, but because yeah, firstly, and in my company, and developer and some engineers need the format and to using the not only in-house but also the supply chain. So it's a how to say and firstly and maybe and it reduce the cost, but not only cost but also the do the compliance.
I see. I think Bosch is the most big tier one supplier all over the world. So and Bosch have the relationship with almost all OEMs. So how do you think about the standardization of the exchange, information exchange of the open source software?
Did I get it right? You asked Bosch?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So, sorry. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. It makes sense to have this exchange format throughout the chain and a conformant content of this. But what I'm rather asking myself is what is special to the automotive industry? I mean, there is this number of licenses. There is if I look at, for example, I'm specialist in automating this stuff. Identification of the bill of materials is really something that is technology specific because of the different ways dependencies are expressed or drawn into a project. But the whole chain after that, if you have your bill of material, is pretty much the same throughout all the stuff. So it's about identifying the metadata and so on. And of course, every company might need some special metadata for their internal processes. But if you look at what has to be transported through the chain, it's basically, I think, not very industry dependent on at least from my point of view. So that would be actually my question. What do you think is automotive specific? That it makes sense to limit this working group to automotive industry.
Thank you so much. I also understand. I also think the importance of the automated and to making that tools is a important things. And of course, I think the almost all the important factor and important metadata is same as other industries. And but I think something is different. Is our industry business model to develop the IVR, for example, IVR system. That OEM company making the specification, and to tier one company to develop the software. But they also making the specification for the tier two company. I think this is a usual software development is coming from the upstream to the community, tier 4, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, OEM. But auto industry is inverse OEMs, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. I think this, so I think some point is, for example, some company prohibits, not prohibits, manage some specific licenses for their products. So they OEMs making the rules. We have to. We don't want to use this license or this package for security reason or another reason. So this is also inside the specification of the OEMs or tier 1 or tier 2. So I think to handling such information is I think little unique compared with the other industries. But I think it is not is a critical point. But I think little differences exist. I think, yeah.
Perhaps when when there any issue about some specific task to handle licensing information, specific usage in automotive industry. In that case, we cooperate to promote and propose to some external community like SPDX community about the modify or additional feature for tools to treat the license information. And also the information from consumer side to supplier side.
Yeah.
Like license compatibility you mentioned, Enzo mentioned, GPL3 or some AFA or something like that. Perhaps we also have to discuss about the such is there any such information required, not well known in the open chain, but they explicitly exist on our supply chain, and correcting those best practice and making some standard format for exchange information from consumer side to supplier side. After that, perhaps we will make some promotion to the proposal to SPDX community or something like the community who maintain the tool to analyze software license or some pathology or something like that.
I see. I think my ideal open source supply chain management is almost all automated, and the information distribute automatically. Engineer not mention about open source license, but I think our now real businesses are from the full automated right now. So how to implement and how to making the milestone of the full automation world is one of our challenge, I think. Yeah. Yes, I think, for example, Google or IBM, they are also making the complete software management systems, and they have all license information inside their systems. So it is very easy compared with our industry, and supply chain is not complicated. But we have very not have so authorized systems each OEMs, maybe tier one company. So of course, tier two or tier three, tier four company has no such systems maybe. So how to develop it is also very big issues, I think. Yeah.
This touches on an area where there can be collaboration because OpenChain is going to be announcing a tooling work group probably next week. It will see cooperation between companies like Siemens, Toshiba, Fujitsu, Hitachi. So the tooling work group will focus on a reference tool chain, open source tooling for open source compliance, allowing people to quickly check inbound and outbound software. The idea is to create a turnkey solution, so perhaps, for instance, a Docker image or similar, already populated with a database as well. And the concept is to help companies further down the supply chain to institute some automation without large expense. So it strikes me that work group is a natural work group to collaborate with.
I see. So how to install each company the tool? It's simple things, and I think there are a few such type of engineer in other company. So how to support system integrator in Japan, for example, Hitachi. In Germany, for example, Siemens Bosch also. So I think how to promote it is also important things. Yeah.
From software engineer point of view, it's quite easy to use the current standard license information like a full-stack SPDX file generated by Yocto recipe file as a SOC vendor, generated SPDX automatically and distributed our software to tier ones to read the SPDX file and ask to consumer that the generate summarize open source license by themselves, referring SPDX file with the tool. However, perhaps in many cases, legal guys or intellectual property guys in the customer side cannot read the full spec SPDX file.
Yeah.
So SPDX Lite, it be focused on such purpose, human readable license file and interoperability between the full spec SPDX and the human readable SPDX Lite. So perhaps we able to make some proposal for tooling working group or some industrial standard body to our requirement about the such strict explicit definition with the full spec SPDX file, and also simultaneously we able to handle the human readable input and out through the spreadsheet or something like that.
Yeah, Lars again from Bosch. So there are already solutions out there, open source, which can be used. For example, I know that in SW360 there is a report generator especially for such purposes. So they make a project report. There is the legal document generation in the OSS review toolkit, or also in SW360 antenna. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Sometimes there might be the need to provide a template so that the document is appropriate for your company. For example, in the case of the legal document, but there's already a lot out there, and I think we should concentrate in the working group on applying, for example, open chain on the automotive industry. I agree that there might be some issues or some requirements which come up, but I think the approach should be to apply the existing stuff onto the automotive industry and check what's missing. I think this is more appropriate than to think out on the green field again on what is needed towards all aspects of compliance from my point of view.
Yeah, and here's Marcel. I would like to add that it would be good to have a common picture as a reference, that we could also, as you mentioned, if all the OEMs would have a common picture, or at least most of them in this working group, that we could point out others to that, so that we could get a fast standard among the automotive industry, and then also point out tier 2, tier 3, whatever, if to tell them, well, if you want to supply to this chain, then look, this is the OEM standard, and therefore we want to supply this, and let's also use this big picture then also to harmonize the whole tooling landscape.
Process of the open source compliance in our industry, and to share such best practice to using some documents or some PowerPoint or some materials, and to share the many OEMs introduced. I think some OEMs already have the good compliance handling system inside the company, but many OEMs just started to develop it. So in this time, it's very good for introduce best practice, which is also includes the needs of the tier 1 suppliers such as Bosch, Panasonic, LG, Renesas also. I think this is very making the picture and share to the not only OEM but also tier 1 or tier 2 people is very productive for us. So is there some other opinion? Or I think this is little very high level, because I think Ito-san or both people and Kato-san is a professional of the open source compliance. So some engineer, Japanese engineer, Korean or suppliers people, there is some opinion or some question is no problem. Yeah, I think what is SPDX is 2 years later, I don't know what is SPDX. Yeah. So yes, please give me a question. Not only English but also Japanese, no problem. Yeah. Lucas-san, how about
sorry, I'm just typing that for my developing, so I lost your question.
No problem. Please give me some suggestion or opinion from the engineering side.
Engineering side, yeah. So engineering side, yeah. Actually,
I'm one of the engineer for Honda, so I'm not so familiar with open source compliance itself. So also in my company, so the IT department people not so much welcome for so in my case, so far I'm very alone. So I know some other department like robotics and other developing team also has the same open source compliance issue. So I know some people are very worried about that, but there's no unified team or
company-wide team.
Yeah, right.
Open source compliance team is important.
Yeah. So maybe almost other company in here has such a organization, but in my company there is no. So so this is maybe not the engineer side issue, but actually it's my current issue.
Yeah. I understand well. So I think some companies already have the organization to handling the open source software in OEM, but some companies not. I have no counterpart of the other company OEM. So how to promote to have some formal organization is important. It's our mission to cooperate because I think we share some software, not only one OEM, but also many OEMs. So I think to handling some issues together, but if there's no counterpart, I think very difficult situation. So I understand your headache. So yeah, we'd like to discuss about that issue also. Yeah.
Perhaps such in-house how to educate or how to organize the open source compliance people. That the originally the targeted by the open chain consortium itself specification already distributed. Perhaps we able to share the some best practice on some OEM or some tier one, perhaps. Of course, it's able to welcome to discuss about such how utilize open chain activity on each companies. I think.
I think other Japanese OEM is similar situation. And German company OEMs has OSS management teams, but I don't know French companies. I don't know who is the open source issues, license issues. So same headache last year because I'd like to discuss about some open source issues other OEMs, but there is no counterperson other OEMs. So I joined some IP executives meetings of auto industry, not only Japan but also German automakers, US automakers, and Korean automakers Hyundai also. And I give the presentation of the open chain or ORM or another issues. We'd like to cooperate such issues. And IP executive generally agree with my proposal, but no, some company no proceed. So I think they can understand. You say middle management issues because top people understand that open source compliance is important, but middle management not take the time or human resource for it. So how to difficult headache for our industry maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem that our company Denso have here. And actually, so far, some companies alone have been struggling with OSS compliance issue. But last year or so, two legal members and IP member joined his activity was more compliance activity. So it's a kind of newborn baby team, OSS compliance team. So we'd like to know, invite some other people in my company and help improve our OSS compliance team. We'd like to know the way to do so.
Yeah, I think in the beginning you mentioned face-to-face meetings, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that, that's one of the big challenges.
Yeah.
Because most often OSS and the license compliance is still a sensitive issue. So people feel not very comfortable to speak openly about some kind of issues that they have. And they don't want to write about it, right? So you don't write something critical in an email. But if you have a face-to-face meeting, then it's much easier to talk to even a different company, a competitor, on an engineering basis to, understand questions and fix issues. So I very much like the idea, and I would very much like to support your idea to have face-to-face meetings in Japan and then explicitly invite. I'm not sure if today, I think there's no one from Volkswagen or Bosch or.
Not on the line right now.
But we need to get these people here, or maybe then, as you outlined, next year in April, or I also have some contacts, so maybe one of them would be happy to host a meeting in Germany to have European people and Japan, other Korean, and so that people can actually get together and talk, like in this context, even if it should not be recorded, it should be, a very friendly environment. That's one comment, and then if anyone is interested, because I think you mentioned earlier that maybe there should be like an easier way to explain the licenses, like in a template format. I'm not sure if you heard about the open source automotive development lab in Germany. I think Hitachi is a member, but I don't think any other Japanese company is a member so far. Osato. And they have an open source license checklist project. And I think it was presented in the Open Chain call, but maybe it was the European US call, not the Japanese or the Asian call. So we are a member. I'm a member. I can, if that's of interest, I can show it later or whenever.
Yes, I understand. Actually, face-to-face meeting is very important for the community activity. So I also promoted it. But budget issue is also a big issue for our industry. Because I also think please come to in April I discussed the Volkswagen people in FSAP event, and please come to Japan. We have some first meeting, but it is very difficult for the budget reason, and I also very strict for my budget. So, I think yes. So I think not have to join every meeting, and we can join the teleconference. But we have some we making some opportunity. If face-to-face opportunity is very important things. So I think, for example, in Japan, I facilitated, and if in China you facilitated, and I joined by telephone, it's no problem. So I understand whereabouts to discuss face to face. It's very important, and I understand some information is very sensitive. So I think making the rule is very important to exchange communicate in my work group also. Yeah. Yeah. I think some past slide, the antitrust policy.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the Linux Foundation's antitrust policy. So this meeting is also follow it. So basically no problem. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe when it comes to making sure the meetings are always fair and equitable, perhaps we can have the work group have internal minutes and so on. We can record it for the members of the work group, but we can operate under Chatham House rule, which means that we can use the outcomes, but we don't say Toyota said this, Bosch said that. In this way, we can foster an environment that is open, worked well in Europe for a couple of hundred years. So it'll probably work in this situation too. The most important thing for us with regards meetings is probably to make sure that we have an agenda, we have minutes, and in that way we're always transparent for new members and so on to catch up and see what we've done.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the 2 points today discussed. One is how to standardize the information exchange inside our automotive supply chain. And at the same time, some company is very difficult to human resources and to promote the understanding of the executives or middle management. I think before the standardization, I think to find the counterparties very important things. If some company lacks the standardization, it not become the default standard. So I think this is both is very important things. So I think some people are skilled and know about information of the open source compliance about the standards. And on the other hand, we also have to thinking how to spread this concept and the importance of the open. I think not only open source compliance, whole open source concept is very important things, but a few executives and a few IP people understand the importance of the open source software. Not only compliance, but also contribution and the community works also. Yeah, so how to promote it is, this is not only automotive world, but especially I think automotive world is some gap is exist. I think Bosch is very high level, but very some OEMs very low level right now. So how to eliminate this gap is also important. Any other some opinion or some
Yes, can I ask? Sorry again if I missed the first part.
Yeah.
Just to understand if the bigger picture, if it's already clear what you want to achieve. For example, you just mentioned getting this standardization. If it's to agree on the format, or if it's to get like a ISO standard.
Yeah.
If you look at like ODX, for the sharing diagnostic data, it's clear like supplier links and so on you can share. So if the goal is to get that point and get like an ISO standard on it, or if it's just to get agreement on the format, and then understand how everyone should generate that, and what are the steps, like what's preventing us from getting agreement and what's preventing us from using it. Because it would be nice to understand what we're trying to achieve, and it's easier to kind of break down the small steps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Just to add something to that point, Linux Foundation is working on creating a fast submitter organization, a fast-track submitter to ISO. The open chain specification will be the first standard to go through that to become an ISO standard. Our current intention is also to do things like make SPDX an ISO standard as well. Of course, the certainty is open chain is very soon. We don't have a timeline for the other standards yet. But I think that plays to the point that we'll have those standards for the sections, but I understand, Endo-san, that there's the possibility also of us creating an OSS SCM industry standard, which I guess would be like a meta standard.
Yeah.
Saying use SPDX here, use OpenChain there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think to make some option or some family of the open chain standard, and to choose each industry, and to provide some template or some text or materials to promote understanding also.
And open source software supply chain management is a wider question than pure compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps one remark here, because as I observe in several areas, is that also the security vulnerabilities are an important topic, and they seem to have much more drive because of the impacts that they have. But perhaps that might also be something that we could check if we could join forces there with other areas that seem to work on the same supply chain, and to get more motivation on that topic, also that we say, hey, it's not about only security, but also about compliance, something like that. It's just an idea that just to raise.
That's a very interesting point, Marcel.
Yes, I think also vulnerability is also important, and long-term support is also important, because our product users are using a very long time. So how to support by open source software is a very difficult question for us, maybe. So I think to discuss about what is the critical point, critical risk for our industry to using the open software, we discuss and to become clear and to support each executives, or to discuss about our industry conference is one of the good opportunity to promote the understanding of the open source software. And this is also promoting the standardization, not only thinking about the license issue, but also vulnerability, security issue also. So thank you so much. Very, very good, good insight. Thank you so much.
I guess one thing when we're touching on, what OSS SCM could be, and if it's stacking of standards, we could have a situation where this ends up referring to a lot of pre-existing standards as well as new ones. For example, ISO 12207 lifecycle processes, 1401 quality, 19770 software asset management, 26262 functional safety, and OpenChain ISO whatever it is. So I guess all of those things need to be considered by this work group regarding what OSS SCM is.
I see. Okay, so I think we continue the information sharing, because I think today's meeting, some people come to know about the OpenChain and SPDX or OSADR also. So I think this is very important things for our industry. And to making some output materials or standard is a very important things for our industry. So there is a very good discussion, and we'd like to continue this type of discussion, not only Japan, outside Japan also. So please cooperate. Yeah. if it's difficult to go the Europe or US, please join it by the telephone conference. Okay. Is there some opinion or some question or some proposal about how to proceed this project?
I have one comment. I think AGL is a good open source community and maybe a good open source license tools trial community. So this year AGL support SPDX Lite. So I will contribute hostology and SW360 released AGL software. So for example, I created Docker and deploy hostology SW360 and deploy to AGL members. So it's very easy setup and using the some open source license tools. So maybe AGL is a good point and discussion community. So I contribute this activity and today I will talk to Dan Kosh and the world and align this activity to AGL side.
Oh, amazing. So in essence, then AGL is going to be totally ready for Fossology plus SW360 compliance analysis. That's big news.
Yeah.
That's really big news.
So, of course, this is very good suggestion proposal. So, please share your proceeding in our committee.
Yeah.
And I also discussed with Dan-san. He's the executive manager of AGL. Also, say we can collaborate AGL and automotive Open Automotive Work Group. And actually, but some companies not member of the Linux Foundation or Genevieve people is also we have to involve. So actually, AGL is one option. So actually, good best practice. But we don't have to focus on the each specific technology or project. So actually, this is also important.
Yeah.
So yeah, good suggestion. I agree. And but we also have please introduce about Osado issue or SPDX issue and another issue. So yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
AGL is a pure technical community.
Yeah.
So it's perhaps it's a great effort from technical side.
Yes.
And perhaps we able to share to see that those results with the technical aspect, and we will share with the legal guys, intellectual property guys.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah. So I think next time sharing the best practice, for example, Scania gets self-confirmation from the open chain specification, and you proceed with some tools can easily the open source compliance, and your project is also the each company's same works degree. I'm sorry. Yeah. So please sharing the each company's best practices is also important in our industry. Yeah.
That's an interesting way to do it. If we had, let's say, 2 hours, we'd give 30 minutes to a case study. Let's say if Scania was there, 30 minutes to cover the AGL, 30 minutes for OSADL, and 30 minutes for SPDX Lite to, really dig into stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Like a mini conference.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much. Actually, time is very good.
Yeah.
So, some question, please post the mailing list. And if you want to hear something by Japanese, please direct mail is also no problem. So yeah, thank you so much for today's meeting, and I hope this community expand more and more. Thank you so much.
Thank you indeed.
Some sandwich and the rice bowl remains, so please enjoy.